to our English class. I hope all of you would have understood the chapter of adjectives very well. Good. Today's lesson is based on degrees of comparison, adjectives and adverbs, which is more or less same to the previous class, but you will definitely learn something more about the adjectives and adverbs too. So, before going to begin with the class, let's see what are the agendas of today's class. Our first objective is the use of adjectives, the use of adjectives and adverbs for comparison. This is our first objective of today's class. And the second aim, or we can say agenda of today's class, is the formation of, what do you have to form? Formation of comparative and superlative. Comparative and superlative forms of adjectives and adverbs by adding er and est. So this is our second objective. Now the third objective of today's class is about irregular forms of comparison. And the last objective of today's class is by adding more and most. You have to make comparative and superlative by adding more and most. So the last objective is about comparison using more and most. So these are 4 objectives of today's class. Before going to understand the whole lesson and their exercises, you must be clear with the aims and agendas of class. So this is all about the objectives. I repeat once again for all of you. The first objective that we are going to do today is the use of adjectives and adverbs. The use of adjectives and adverbs for comparison. How do we make them into the comparison? And the second is the formation of comparative and superlatives forms of adjectives and adverbs by adding er and est. And the third objective of today's class is about irregular forms of comparison. And the fourth and the last objective of today's class about comparison using more and most. Let's start one by one. So our first objective is the use of adjectives and adverbs for comparison. Yes, you all must know that adjectives and adverbs can have 3 forms. We can say the first form is base form, the second form is comparative form, and the third form is superlative form. And these all the adjectives indicate the comparison of quality and quantity of different nouns. First of all, we will talk about the base form that does not make any comparison. We write the comparative form to compare 2 objects, 2 persons, 2 actions, or we can say 2 places. but the superlative form is written to compare more than two persons, more than two places, or two actions. Here you will come to know how do we write comparative and superlative forms, but they all are written in the different ways. Let's see. Our first objective is degrees of comparison. Children, you all know that degrees of comparison refer to adjectives written in different forms to compare one, two, or more nouns with each other. So children, there are 3 degrees of comparison. First is positive degree, second is comparative degree, and third is superlative degree. Here I have taken an example of large, and if we put it into the sentences, we will say Mercury is a large planet. Here the second picture is of Earth. Earth is larger than Mercury. And the third picture is of Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet of all. Now I will tell you one thing more. The word large, which I have written under the planet Mercury, it is in the positive degree and there is no comparison made in this degree. The word larger is in the comparative degree. There is a comparison between Mercury and Earth. And the third picture, that is made of Jupiter, the word largest, L-A-R-G-E-S-T, is in the superlative degree. There is comparison between more than two things. Jupiter is compared to Earth, Mercury, and all other planets also. When comparing two things, or we can say two similar things, when we compare two similar things, we use a comparative adjective followed by than. Just see over here, I have written THAN, than. Okay, there should be two similar things, then we use than. But when comparing two or more similar things, the definite article the, I have written here the, is used before the superlative degree or superlative adjective. As I have written, Jupiter is the largest planet of all. Let's have some rules for comparative and superlative degrees of adjectives. This is a positive column and this is a comparative and then superlative column. Here we have written the degrees of comparison. Let's read out the rules one by one. The first rule is adjectives that end with an E. For example, brave, B-R-A-V-E, and P-U-R-E, pure. What to do in this case? When the words end with an E, then we are supposed to add R and ST. R in the comparative degree and ST in the superlative degree. If brave is given, already E is written, then the comparative degree of brave will be B-R-A-V-E-R and the superlative will be B-R-A-V-E-S-T. The second example is P-U-R-E, pure, and its comparative degree is purer, P-U-R-E-R, and the superlative will be purest, P-U-R-E-S-T, purest. Second rule is adjectives that end in a consonant. Consonant, you know, except 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, 21 consonants are there in English language, and the consonant is preceded by a vowel. Just remember, this point is very important, children. Adjectives that end in a consonant and the consonant is preceded by a vowel. For example, THIN. So what to do in this case? You have to double the consonant and add ER to the adjective. Yes, as the adjective is thin, we are given thin, and you are asked to put it into comparative and superlative forms. what will you do? You will double the consonant because it is preceded by a vowel. Which vowel is here? I. So the comparative will be THI double NER and the superlative will be THI double NEST. Right. And the second example over here is big. 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 What will be the comparative degree of big? BIGGER. Bigger. BIGGEST. Biggest. The third example is FAT. Fat. And its comparative form is fatter. 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 And the superlative is FATTEST. Fattest. I hope these 2 points are clear to everyone. Yes. Now we will move on to the third very important rule. Most adjectives that end with the consonant. Here in these all the cases we have to add ER and EST. Rich, richer, richest. RICHER, richer. RICHEST, richest. Thick, THICK, thick. And its comparative is thicker. THICKER, thicker. THICKEST, thickest. YOUNG, young, will be younger and youngest. YOUNGER and YOUNGEST. And the next example is strong. STRONG, strong. Its comparative form is stronger. STRONGER, stronger. And STRONGEST, strongest. Now we will move on to the fourth important rule of adjectives. Adjectives that have 2 syllables and end with Y. You must remember the point which I have discussed in the last video, that when the adjectives end with Y, then you have to write IER. You have to change Y into IER and Y into IEST. Let's see how do we do so. Lovely, 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 will be written as lovelier in comparative form and loveliest in superlative form. And you need to be very careful about the spellings over here. Lovely, as here Y is the last letter, and here the adjective has 2 syllables and with Y. Here the answer or the comparative form of lovely is LOVELIER. Don't put only ER at the end of Y, which is being committed by many of you. Please do remember Y is to be written into IER. We have to change this letter into IER and IEST. Here wealthy, 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 will be written as wealthier. WEALTHIER, wealthier, and WEALTHIEST, wealthiest. Easy, EASY, easier, EASIER, and easiest, EASIEST, easiest. I hope these 4 rules of adjectives are clear to everyone. Now we will move on to the last rule of adjectives. Adjectives that have 3 or more than 3 syllables. How to write it into comparative and superlative forms. Yes, it is also explained to all of you in the previous video. I have explained you this rule, that when we are given the adjectives with more than 2 syllables, then we have to write more and most with the given adjectives. First example is beautiful. Beautiful. I split it into 3 syllables. Have you noticed? Have you watched the previous video? If you haven't seen the last video, you are requested to watch the previous video, because both the videos are interrelated to each other. Okay, so here beautiful. Beautiful add more before it. If you have to write the comparative form of beautiful, you must remember to write more for the second degree. Yes, more beautiful, and most for the superlative degree. Most beautiful. Here you have not to add er and est. Difficult, more difficult, and most difficult. Dangerous, more dangerous, and most dangerous. So children, these 5 rules are pertaining to adjectives for changing into comparative and superlative forms. Now we will move on to our next aim of today's class. What is that? Do you remember? Good. That is some irregular adjectives. When we are given some irregular adjectives, then we have not to add er and est or not to write more and most. When the first word is given here, little, little, it is an adjective. You all know little is an adjective, and when we have to write it into the comparative form, then you have to write its second degree, that is less, less. Less means when you are comparing two things, two objects or two persons together, then you have to use the comparative degree. And when you are comparing more than two persons, more than two objects, then you have to write superlative degree. So what would be the superlative of little? Yes, little, less, least. But do remember the spellings of least, L-E-A-S-T, least. Now the second irregular adjective is good, G-O-O-D, very common word of our English language, good. It is always written as better in the comparative form and best in the superlative form. I hope this word is known to all of you. Next word is bad, B-A-D, bad. Its comparative form is worse, W-O-R-S-E, worse, and W-O-R-S-T, worst. Its superlative form. Next irregular adjective is far, F-A-R, far. It's written in the two different forms. So you do remember what are the two different comparative forms of far. First is father, F-A-R-T-H-E-R, father, and then it can also be written as further, F-U-R-T-H-E-R. Please do remember this adjective is somehow new to you. Please do remember both of these comparative and superlative forms of far. Its superlative is farthest and furthest too. The last irregular adjective is much or many, but its comparative and superlative form remain the same in both of these cases. If it is much, then also the comparative will be more and superlative will be most. And if it is many, then also the comparative form of many is more and superlative is most. So this is all about the rules for comparative and superlative degrees of adjectives. The most important rule that is being used for the comparison. Yes, the use of elder and eldest is restricted to compare human beings, mostly in family relationships. The one who is elder is the one who was born first. For example, this is my elder brother John. My eldest brother is in 10th grade. I hope you are getting the difference between elder and eldest clearly. Okay, elder and eldest are not used with animals or things. Please do remember this is only used in the relationship, family relationships, or we can say to compare human beings. Now, we do not use than with elder. John is older than me. Older and oldest are used to refer to the age of things, persons, and animals generally. The town hall is by far the oldest building in the whole region. My grandfather must be older than my grandmother. Max is the oldest of our children. Yes. And the next instruction, how to use elder, older, eldest and oldest. The last point to use this adjective is we do not use elder after get or grow. She will understand it when she grows older. My parents are getting older. Here the next point is very important for all of us because it is given the wrong usage of double comparatives and superlatives. Many of you are using the way it is mentioned here, so I have taken few examples from the reference books which will help you a lot in future how to use it in our daily conversation and how can we improve our interaction with our friends and with our colleagues. So here the most common mistake done by students while using degrees of comparison is using double comparatives and superlatives. Do remember children, this is being committed not intentionally, I should say unintentionally it happens, and even we are not aware of those important points. So do remember because this is very important lesson and we use these adjectives in our daily life, so we do need to rectify the ways which we have not done correctly. One must be careful not to use it. How are we committing these kind of mistakes? Let's see. The error with double comparatives is the usage of both the er ending and the word more. What do? We write er with the adjectives and also write more in the conversations. These sentences generally sound awkward when read aloud. When we read them aloud, then becomes very awkward to the listener. How do we do so? Just see. Vanya is more richer than Rekha. Is it correct usage? Not at all. We have to use it in the correct way. What is the correct way to use this? Many of the children, what do? Put more as well as er with the adjectives. Vanya, the correct usage is also given over here. Vanya is richer than Rekha. So please do use it the way it is given in the correct manner, not in the incorrect sentence. The comparative degree of rich is richer, not more richer. Okay, and the next point is similarly the error with superlative comparatives also. The previous example was related to the comparative degree. Now the next example is about the superlative degree. So similarly the error with the superlative comparatives is the usage of both the est ending with the word most. Like Justin is the most fastest runner in our school. It is the incorrect use. What is the correct way? The correct way to write the above sentence is Justin is the fastest runner in our school. So the superlative degree of fast is fastest, not most fastest. I hope these points are clear to all of you. First point I read is about the use of elder, older, eldest and oldest. This is all explained to you. And the second important point is wrong usage of double, superlatives and comparatives. So children, our last objective of today's class is comparison of adverbs. You all know that adverbs is a very important part of speech in our English language, and even I must say that in English grammar, as there are 8 parts of speech and it plays an important role in our English grammar. So what is the comparison of adverbs here? What does it mean? Comparison of adverbs is also more or less same as we have done in adjectives. Comparative and superlatives of adverbs are formed like those of adjectives. The first point is like hard and harder, hardest. What is The difference is only in the part of speech. You must be finding it similar to the adjectives what we have done in the conversion of positive into comparative and superlative forms, as we have written here er and est. Same we have written in adjectives also, but you have to you must remember that these words which I have written over here, they are the adverbs. So the difference lies only in the part of speech. If you know that hard is a word that exists as an adverb in English grammar also, so what could be the comparative and superlative forms of hard? It would be harder and hardest. Early, as I told you in adjectives, if the word ends in y, then we have to remove I and write IER and IEST. By adding ER and EST, we can easily write an adverb and also an adjective into comparative and superlative form. So this is our first rule of changing adverbs into comparative and superlative forms. So our second rule is by using more and most. Adverbs ending in ly usually form their comparatives and superlatives by adding more and most. For example, brightly, more brightly, most brightly, tightly, more tightly, and most tightly. So the irregular forms which are written in the comparison of adverbs forms, first is well, its comparative form is better and the superlative form is best. And the second example is little, less, least. So these all adverbs like ending in ly, I have taught you ly usually form their comparative and superlatives by adding more and most. You do remember. In the other cases, when we have got irregular forms, in that case we have to change the spellings completely to write down into the comparative and superlative forms. Here we are not supposed to write more and most with these adverbs. Okay, children, I hope this lesson is clear to everyone, which is degrees of comparison, adjectives and adverbs, which has been explained to all of you with many examples, and this must be clearing your all the doubts related to adjectives and adverbs and how to use these adjectives and adverbs in our daily conversation, how to put the sentences into the comparative and superlative forms, and how we have to change our wrong usage and we have to use the correct form of sentences in our daily conversation. It will help you a lot. Please do implement it and try putting these adjectives and adverbs in your formation too.